showtime.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Give me a hell yeah!
Is that why you are here?
It's time! It's showtime!
From the captain's chair, in the Great American Media Entertainment Studios, it is Thursday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific, and that means only one thing. It is the show on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. Glad to have you here on the program. I am the voice, Ted Guinness, welcoming you to a packed, and when I say packed, I mean packed program. Lots to talk about, lots that have happened already, lots that are going to happen in the next week or so. Of course, I'm referring to WWE Payback from this last Sunday. A few surprises from Monday Night Raw, and if you didn't see the outstanding NXT special last night, NXT Unstoppable, you need to go out of your way and find NXT Unstoppable. And it's not that hard to find. All you have to do is go under the WWE Network. There it is, right there. And you will be entertained for a good 2 solid hours. I mean, up and down that show was ridiculous. And I was talking to a couple of people after the show, one of whom mentioned that it seemed like the energy of the crowd was a little bit different than the last 2 NXT TakeOver specials. We're going to dedicate the second half of the hour, coming back from the bottom of the hour break. We're going to talk about everything that happened revolving around NXT. That'll be at the 10:30 hour. Of course, you can join the program if you are so inclined, and you can do that in a couple of ways. We do have the chat room open at beyondringside.com. I am monitoring said chat room. You can also join the program by picking up your telephone and calling the number. Well, if you have the Beyond Ringside app, look at the bottom where it shows you what show is being broadcast right now, and it'll say live, the show with Ted Guinness. The phone number's right there, but I'm not going to make you go and look for it. I'll give you the phone number tonight just to make it easy on you. 208-643-0102 is the telephone number if you want to be a part of the program tonight. And I do have to say right off, to be fair to all the listeners, I'm going to be a little distracted tonight. And the reason I'm a little distracted tonight is I do have the TV on with Game 2 of the NBA Western Conference Finals, the Houston Rockets and the Golden State Warriors. Right now going into halftime, game tied at 55. Golden State has a 1-0 series advantage, and being a Golden State Warriors fan from the time I could remember watching basketball, and I know a lot of people will say, you're a bandwagon. No, I'm not a bandwagon jumper. I've been a Golden State Warriors fan since the days of Run TMC. I had to deal with the trade of Mitch Richmond to Sacramento for Billy freaking Owens. I had to live through Latrell Sprewell choking out PJ Carlissimo. I had to live through watching great players come through the system and never really living up to their potential and going on and having great careers. Gilbert Arenas, Jason Richardson, Monte Ellis, just to name a few. But, so if anyone wants to come out and say, oh, you're just a bandwagon jumper, no, I'm not. I am a true and true Golden State Warriors fan. So if I am distracted tonight, it is because I do have Game 2 going on. I'm going to call it Monitor 5. Eddie likes to name all his monitors in the Full Range Entertainment Studios. I'll go ahead and do it. Monitor 5, Golden State Warriors, Houston Rockets. But we're not talking about that tonight. Of course, if you do want to make mention of it and call in, go ahead. 208-643-0102 is the phone number. But I want to go ahead and talk. Start this segment and talk a little bit about Payback from this past Sunday. And, it was an okay show. I would go so far as to say that it was average to a little bit above average. Nothing really happened in the pay-per-view that was a surprise, to be honest. I mean, how many people thought that Rusev was actually going to make John Cena say, I quit? How many people thought that they were going to take the title off of Seth Rollins so early after winning the World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania? Nobody. And realistically, those were the only two matches that really mattered throughout Payback. No disrespect to Dolph Ziggler, no disrespect to Sheamus, who opened the show, no disrespect to the Divas or any of the other matches, but essentially Payback was a two-match show. It was the I Quit match for the United States Championship, and it was the Fatal 4-Way for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. And, starting off with the Cena-Rusev United States Championship match, it was, for all intents and purposes, one of the best, if not the best show on the card. And I'm still hesitant to say that match was better than the Fatal 4-Way main event, but it was up there. A lot of people have been wanting Rusev to beat Cena for just the simple fact, not because they necessarily like the full Russian gimmick, not necessarily for any reason other than we've seen what happens with WWE talents that get put in extended programs with John Cena. Cena always wins, the other talent always loses, and then creative backs off from them, and they start to lose any momentum that they had with the fans. Case in point, Bray Wyatt. And now it looks like they're taking the best part of the Rusev act, which is Lana. And I'm not even going to say, in my opinion, the best act. I'm going to say just from the simple fact that, the crowd's starting to chant, we want Lana, which means they're starting to invest into these characters a little bit more than we had seen previously. And so because of that, I think that there was a large segment of the population that just needed to see somebody actually beat Cena and not face a year-long downslide where he's basically going to be relegated to lower card, lower mid-card, possibly mid-card status. It really depends on what they decide to do with his involvement in the Elimination Chamber that happens next Sunday. And we'll talk about the Elimination Chamber in hour number 2. But the way that they finished that match with Rusev pulling the top rope essentially off the turnbuckle and Cena using it for his modified AA to where, you couldn't really tell what Rusev was saying because obviously he was speaking Bulgarian. So they had Lana come in and throw in the towel and say, he quits. I'm not sure really how I feel about the ending of that match. I don't. And simply because it's not so much the instant reaction to what happened after the match. It's what they're going to be doing with Rusev and Lana. And Rusev looks like he's going to be put into a program with Dolph Ziggler, with Lana now apparently making out with Ziggler and whatever, which, that whole angle doesn't make sense with, Lana coming out and crying and say, oh, I did it because I cared about you and everything, and then 10 minutes later coming out and kissing Ziggler. The only way that this storyline makes sense, the only way that it works and could be even somewhat passable is if it's revealed that Lana's doing this not as in cahoots with Rusev, but is doing this in spite of Rusev to bring Rusev back and to show actually how much she really cares for him. It's the soap opera drama crap that WWE dips into that I don't. This is the one part of professional wrestling, sports entertainment, whatever you want to call it, the whole romance storyline angle crap. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. And, regardless whether they're dating in real life or not, regardless whether, they're married, whether they absolutely hate each other, whatever, I don't care if the chemistry is off the charts between the two. I hate that potential storyline. And that's going to be one thing that I'm going to be paying attention to over the next couple of weeks, months, however long it takes to unfold, to see if anyone actually really cares about this storyline. I mean, I can't get behind it one little bit. I just can't. But I digress. I'm not the one that writes the stories, thankfully, but I am one of the ones that have to sit through and watch this drivel. So we'll see what happens with that. The other match that was the marquee match. I will go on record not only to say it was the best match of the show, but of course it was the main event. The Fatal 4-Way for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. A lot of speculation going into this match. Are we going to see any type of Shield reunion spot or whatever? And we did. We saw it with Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins setting Randy Orton up for the Cerberus bomb through the announce table. And I really liked it, how Rollins, hey, we got the Shield back together to put them in, and looked like they were playing along for a second, and then nope. They went to work on Ambrose. But I think the best part of the match is, early on, you had Orton, Ambrose, Reigns getting ready to essentially circle and corner Seth Rollins. J&J comes in, pulls Roman out, pulls Ambrose out, and it turns into a one-on-one match briefly between Rollins and Randy Orton, and that's how the match finishes up. And I think that was a great way for WWE to move away from Randy Orton as the number one contender. You essentially have him start the match with Seth. You have him take the pinfall loss from Seth. And I don't think Reigns or Ambrose were hurt in this match at all. If anything, Ambrose was elevated to a level that he needs to be at. He needs to be in that main event picture, and now we're going to get a chance to see that. We saw Ambrose and Seth Rollins after the Shield broke up, the match in the Hell in a Cell where Bray Wyatt interfered. There was, throughout all of the matches that Ambrose and Rollins have had, there has never been a complete and pure finish to the rivalry. And I'm hoping that going into Elimination Chamber, that this is not the end of the Ambrose-Rollins rivalry. I hope this is the renewal of something that's going to last 3 months, maybe all the way up into SummerSlam, maybe past SummerSlam. And it also looks to me like they're starting to ease back a little bit on Roman Reigns being in that title picture, because if you listen to the crowd reaction when Reigns came out during Payback, it was just like the Royal Rumble. It was just like Fastlane. It was just like WrestleMania. And, it was just Extreme Rules. He had a better reaction. But, the crowd was against Roman Reigns. And I'm beginning to think, and I'm trying to figure out why the crowds in general boo Reigns as mercilessly as they do. And I'm beginning to wonder if it's A, they just don't want to see him in the title picture yet, or if it's B, they're rebelling against who they perceive WWE wants to be, the next John Cena, for a lack of a better term, the next big babyface heavyweight champion that can carry the company into the next 10 to 12 years. I think a lot of it is that fans in general, they don't believe that Reigns is ready or Reigns has earned that spot. He's being thrust into that spot because that's what Vince and company wants. And you get a different reaction from Dean Ambrose, who has a lot of Steve Austin in him, has a lot of Brian Pillman in him, has a lot of his own creative weirdness going on inside of his head. And the crowd reacts to that. And I think you're starting to see a shift in the creative and to who's going to be chasing Rollins. I think a lot of the fans, like myself, feel that there is a lot of unfinished business as it relates to Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins, and Roman Reigns can wait. And I think we're starting to see that. So now we have a pay-per-view situation, and this was a surprise that the Elimination Chamber was even being brought back this early. And as a matter of fact, they're doing it in Texas. They canceled another house show, All Hands on Deck, for this pay-per-view, and it's going to be interesting to look at the way that card shapes up, especially because this is a very hurried pay-per-view. There's not a lot of time to set up stories, so there has to be a lot of continuation between what happened with Payback and lead up to Money in the Bank. So curious to see how everything works out on that. But I can guarantee you that this is going to be the first WWE title match since Roman Reigns won the Royal Rumble that the challenger is not going to be booed out of the building when he's the babyface challenger going up against the heel world heavyweight champion who has cajoled and snuck and essentially sneak attacked and surprised his way to a world heavyweight championship. And the fact that, we never did get the resolution to Rollins and Ambrose really brings in a lot of intrigue to this main event coming up at the Elimination Chamber. I just hope, and again, like I said before, I just hope it doesn't turn into a situation where it's going to be, Dean Ambrose in a World Heavyweight Championship situation in a storyline where he's actually chasing for a World Heavyweight Championship. I just really hope that we're not looking at a Dean Ambrose one and done, because if we are, you seriously have to start questioning the sanity of Vince McMahon and those involved making the creative decisions. 24 after the top of the hour, we're going to go ahead and step away and take our first break here on the show. I am Ted Guinness. 208-643-0102 is the phone number if you want to join the program. We'll be back on the show on the Beyond Ringside right after this.
This is Stan Grubb for Wrestle Rage Radio right here on BeyondRingside.com. Join us every Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for myself and Smart Rage as we discuss the professional wrestling business from WWE, TNA, and all things in between. We'll have an interview here or there. We'll see what we can do to just keep you entertained. And along the way, we're going to have to bring up some emotion and make you think. That's what we like to do. So join us here on Sunday nights, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll see you at Wrestle Rage.
Welcome back to the show here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network and the Beyond Ringside app. I am the voice, Ted Guinness. Glad to have you with me. I'm flabbergasted here. I can't even figure out my own mixing board. So that's the problem. When you're doing a show and you need to wear glasses and you're not wearing them, for one, so you can't see what the hell you're doing. Two, you keep it pitch dark in your studio, so the only lights that are showing up are the glow of the monitors in front of me. It is the show here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. I am the voice, Ted Guinness, mumbling incoherently, apparently, because I have no idea what in the blue hell I am talking about right now. Wow. 208-643-0102 is the phone number. Again, 208-643-0102. Also on the Beyond Ringside website, beyondringside.com. We do have the chat room up and going and ready for your comments. We talked the first part of the program about WWE Payback, and essentially it only being a two-match pay-per-view. Not a bad pay-per-view, as like I said, but not their best. And it seems like they've kind of hit a stumbling block. They had a great string of 3 in a row. The Rumble, Fastlane, and WrestleMania were great, and then Extreme Rules and Payback seem to have kind of slipped down a little bit. And it's very surprising to me that, with Payback, with NXT, now they're trying to cram in the Elimination Chamber, and then 2 weeks after the Elimination Chamber, they start the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. They're jamming a lot, and you've got to wonder how much of this is, especially with the Elimination Chamber, how much of this is trying to drive more people to the WWE Network. I don't even know if they have pay-per-view clearance for this, or if this is going to be a WWE Network exclusive. Haven't heard that yet. Quick update from Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals between the Houston Rockets and the Golden State Warriors. 8:01 left in the third quarter. Golden State trails the Houston Rockets 65-59. At one point, the Warriors had a 17-point lead, and the Rockets able to come back and tie it up at halftime. And it looks like they've gone on a 10-4 run to start the third quarter. So if you're interested in the Warriors-Rockets Game 2 of the NBA Western Conference Finals, that's what's going on there tonight. I want to go ahead and dip in a little bit. I don't know how many of you had the opportunity to tune into the WWE Network last night, but for all intents and purposes, WWE's NXT Unstoppable, the latest in the NXT TakeOver series. Again, they've now done 4 of these specials since the WWE Network has been around in these last 15 months. And every single one of them have delivered essentially, I think, what WWE fans, and not even just WWE fans, but I think the more hardcore wrestling fans, the truer fans, not the ones that like the sports entertainment crap, the BS romance angles and the goofy characters and things. The fans that really like the hard hitting, don't confine these talents to 5-minute matches. Give them the time that they need to really truly excel, and that's what they did last night. And I made mention that I was talking to someone after the program, or after the pay-per-view last night, and they said that they felt that the crowd was a little flat. And I could kind of understand that perspective, but with the show fresh in my mind, I wanted to take some time to sit and kind of digest what I saw before I went back and watched it again today, which I did. And this one, when I watched it today, really wasn't so much about watching the matches, because I was intently watching every single match last night. To me, this one was more about, the second viewing was more about watching the crowd and how they reacted and the ebb and flow of the crowds. And if there's one thing that I've always been kind of a student in any show that I was ever a part of, whether it was a Deep South, whether it was an indie show, whether it was a Global Championship Wrestling down in Birmingham, Alabama. I always paid attention to the crowd reactions and the ebbs and flows of crowds, not because I was smarter than anyone or trying to tell people, what to do and promoters and how to book their matches, but more for me just because, I've been to tons of pro wrestling events growing up, and not only pro wrestling, but other sporting events. I went to the XFL. I've been to Major League Baseball. I've been to the NBA. I've been to the NHL. The list goes on and on. And every time I go to a live sporting event, whether it's the Boise Hawks here locally that draw maybe 1,500 people a game, or whether it's the World Series, case in point, and going really into how in depth I gauge crowd reactions, I can actually remember 2010 Game 5 of the World Series in Texas when the Giants were about to beat the Texas Rangers, the last inning of the ball game when Brian Wilson came out and was set to face Josh Hamilton. Going to set this up, and it's amazing that I remember the crowd reaction. I can set up the entire play. And, when Hamilton took a called strike 3, the whole sequence before that, you had the Texas crowd on their feet, cheering, hoping that Hamilton was going to be able to spark that rally that would get the Rangers to a Game 6, bring it back to San Francisco, and hopefully stay in it. And the crowd was amped up, and as soon as Wilson released that pitch, and the ball hit Posey's glove, and the umpire, clear, and you can hear it as clear as day, yells, "Strike 3!" The reaction from the crowd from going hype to silent for that moment of waiting for the called strike 3 to a collective, "Oh, I can't believe." Those are the type of things I love to watch when I'm watching either sports or professional wrestling, WWE, NXT. I love to gauge the crowds. And I will agree that it does seem that the crowd was a little bit flat in quite a few parts of that program. But I don't think it had anything to do with who was wrestling and the things that were happening in the match. I think it really had to do with match placement. Whoever sat down and put down the final card and said, we're going to open the show with Balor Breeze. Then we're going to follow it with the Divas tag match. Then we're going to get you Rhino and Baron Corbin. And then we'll throw in Enzo and Big Cass taking on Murphy and Blake. And then we'll move to the first 4 matches last night could have definitely been reordered and elicited a better reaction. I think what you could have done that would have kept the crowd at what I like to consider a good buzz throughout the show. And obviously there's going to be up and downs when there's some dead spots, rest spots in the ring, reverse chokeholds, things like that, especially in the beginning of the holds where the crowd really hasn't started to get into the claps to bring their guy back or whatever. There was a lot of good buzz, but there was also a lot of downtime in matches where I didn't think that downtime was necessary from the crowd. If I were booking the show last night, I would have probably put Enzo and Cass versus Blake and Murphy. I would have had that open the show, especially with Alexa Bliss coming out and essentially turning heel in the Divas division, setting up what looks like is going to be a feud between Alexa Bliss and Carmella. Keeps the tag team storyline going between the champs and the challengers chasing after them. But it would have been better off served to open the show because you would have been able to get the crowd into it and keep them ready for the next thing. Open the show with Enzo doing his spiel at the beginning of every match that he does. And I'm going to say this right now, too. 2 things about Enzo. One, if he does get called up to the main roster, that shtick is probably going to have to get toned down or completely eliminated after the first month of their debut, because doing that time and time again in front of 15,000 people, I don't think you're going to get the same reaction as you get with, the 500 to 1,000 people that they have at Full Sail University for NXT tapings. That kind of thing works in a more intimate setting. And, it's kind of one of those Adam Rose things that, the crowd at NXT at Full Sail may love Enzo's gimmick, promo, whatever you want to call it, as he's going to the ring and doing the whole "how you doing, certified G, blah, blah, blah." I don't think that's something that's going to be able to carry over and be as accepted with the main WWE fan base, the Raw, SmackDown fan base. So, and the other thing about Enzo Amore, and it's interesting that I used the Brian Wilson analogy, because if you look at Enzo and you look at a picture of Brian Wilson after the 2011 World Series or the 2010 World Series, those guys, with the exception of Enzo's blonde hair and the cheetah spots on the side, those guys look exactly alike. And I don't know if you've noticed, but Brian Wilson's not pitching in the major leagues. We may have a separated at birth situation here, either that or Brian Wilson's changed his name, become a professional wrestler, now known as Enzo Amore. But I mean, it's every time I see Enzo, I think, oh God, it's Brian Wilson again. Yeah, we got rid of him in San Francisco. Now I have to have him on my TV. Fantastic. But yeah, I would have opened up with Enzo and Cass taking on Blake and Murphy, and then moved Baron Corbin, Rhino second, the Divas tag team match third, and then you bring in Balor, Tyler Breeze, especially with the Finn Balor entrance. And if you haven't seen it yet, go out of your way to YouTube, Finn Balor entrance. And I hope someone has put last night's entrance on last night. Although I do think that the cape with the spiny spikes coming out of the back was definitely on the level of what I would call indie-rific. I didn't think it was necessary. But I loved the eye in the face paint on the back. And, one thing that really I have to wonder about is, what is the reaction from Steph, from Triple H, from Vince, from Matt Bloom, from the powers that be, no pun intended, that run NXT. Every time something awesome happens, that NXT crowd chants, "Holy bleep, holy bleep." And it comes through clear as day. And, in a 15,000 seat arena, you can't really control something like that, because it's one of those chants that goes viral. Inside an intimate building like that, you would really hope that they had the ring announcer or someone go out before the show and say, "Hey, you guys need to tone it down, because, we are still WWE, even though this is NXT and it's a little bit more gritty. It still falls under the auspices of PG-13 last I checked." I actually love the Holy S chants, though, just because it reminds me of the passion, not only from the former ECW fans, but a lot of fans from indie shows that I've actually have gone to as a fan and watched and enjoyed. It definitely has that indie feel. And, I had Spiral on a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about his Tough Enough video and saying that he didn't think he was going to get picked because a lot of the guys that they're looking for are the big, 6'3", 6'4", 250-pound guys. And I countered that argument. Because if you look at the guys that Triple H has brought in to fill a lot of these spots, and a lot of these spots are guys that are getting ready to go to the next level, with the exception of Baron Corbin, you've got Sami Zayn, who's about 205, 210, Neville, who's up to the main roster now, Tyler Breeze, who's he would essentially be a cruiserweight, Finn Balor, Hideo Itami, all these guys that Triple H has brought in, these are more of the indie type competitors, and I think the fan base really appreciates the indie type of competitor coming in and being able to perform under the WWE umbrella, but still have that indie feel. So I think a lot of that Holy S chant and a lot of that, it adds a lot of flavor to it, although it may not necessarily be something that Triple H likes to hear come across. But hey, if you're down at Full Sail University, go ahead, continue with the Holy S chants. I absolutely love it. I think it adds a lot of realism that, we may have, we saw something that really just we absolutely love. And so we're going to go ahead, and that's how we show our support for it. And speaking of Holy S chants, the reaction at the end of the main event as Kevin Owens was completely destroying Sami Zayn, which was done essentially to write him out of storylines while he goes and has surgery to get an issue with his shoulder fixed that he's essentially had since his last run in Ring of Honor. When Samoa Joe came out, and when his music first hit, it was one of those situations, new music that no one recognizes. And again, I'm listening to the crowd, and you had a few of the fans out there chanting Joe, 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 thinking that it was going to be Samoa Joe. And when he came out, the reaction was, the reaction was great by the crowd. I think the way that the guy who does the play-by-play for NXT, and I'm sorry I don't have his name in front of me, similar situation back when Christian came back to WWE and under the ECW brand. I would love for Jim Ross, to be able to teach a class on when to show excitement and how to show excitement, especially in a debut or a return situation. Can you imagine if JR was there? It wouldn't have been, delivered as, "Oh my God, it's Samoa Joe." It would have been, "My God, it's Samoa Joe. He's here at NXT. Good Lord, what is Kevin Owens going to?" That would have really amped up the viewing audience to match the energy and the excitement that was going on in the NXT audience. I think that the play-by-play dropped the ball. And it's a very coachable moment at this point, I think, for the guys who teach the announcers in NXT when to get excited, how to get excited. They do a great job. I think they do a better job than Cole and JBL and Booker T on Monday Night Raw, and I think they do a hell of a lot better job than Tom Phillips, Byron Saxton, and Jerry Lawler on SmackDown. But this is a situation where they dropped the ball. It deserved to have the announcers sell it as, the man that no one ever thought they would see in a WWE/NXT ring. Oh my God, listen to the fans. It's Samoa Joe. No one ever thought this was going to happen. And he's coming to the ring to face off one-on-one against Kevin Owens and to save Sami Zayn from a further brutal beating. I mean, come on. It could have been done so much better. And, they dropped the ball on it. And I mean, it's one of a few and don't get me wrong, I'm not degrading the announcers. I'm not degrading the show at all. And I mean, it comes down to, I love watching reality competition shows. I like watching things like Ink Master or, Iron Chef America, Chopped, a lot of these competition shows where things are so good that it comes down to, we have to send you home because of just little nitpicky, you have to just nitpick little things because there's no glaring weaknesses. And that's what that show last night was. There were no glaring weaknesses in the show. So, I mean, the things that you're picking apart are just the little things. And I mean, my God, every match in the show had something for everybody. And the main event was what it was. It wasn't a great main event, but it was a main event that was designed to essentially write Sami Zayn off TV, bring Samoa Joe in, and set up a storyline between Samoa Joe and Kevin Owens for the NXT Championship after, and there's another thing. What happens with Finn Balor in this? Now you got Samoa Joe, who wants Kevin Owens. You have Finn Balor, who's next in line for the NXT Championship. He wants his title. I mean, there's a lot of good intrigue built there. But for me, last night, the match of the show was the Women's Championship match between Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch. And the way that everything had been built up over the course of the last 6 months, with Becky Lynch essentially learning from Sasha Banks, filling the role that Charlotte had with Sasha before Charlotte went babyface and won the women's title. Now Sasha has the title, was mentoring Becky Lynch. Becky had a great performance in the Fatal 4-Way for the Women's Championship match at the last TakeOver special. The way that match went with, and there's a huge, and I hate to use the term heel section, but there's a huge heel section in NXT that was chanting for Sasha Banks, and a lot of the chants for Becky were being drowned out by that other section. By the end of that match, and I have to say that not only was it one of the best women's matches that I've ever had the pleasure of watching, it was one of the best laid out matches that I've seen in quite a long time. And with the crowd showing the respect to Becky Lynch at the end, giving her the standing ovation after Sasha leaves the ring, chanting her entrance music, which finally cued whoever the producer was that was running the music to hit Becky's music as she was leaving the ring. I thought it was a great show of respect from the NXT fans. I thought it was a great show of respect not only for the fact that they recognize that Becky Lynch did everything that she needed to do in that match to make Sasha not only look strong, but also to lend a level of believability that Becky Lynch could win this match. And if it wasn't, Sasha comes up, drops the, I don't even know what to call it. It was some sort of arm DDT off the top rope. Call it a super arm DDT into the bank statement and getting Becky to tap out. Now, there's another thing, too, is that Becky's foot was really close to the rope. And if they want to maintain this storyline, I mean, they have something there that may have been inadvertently missed, or when they go back and watch the tape, they can say, hey, Becky's foot was close to the rope. It might have been under the rope when she tapped out, even though the referee was right there. I mean, you can use that as an angle to kind of build a little bit more intrigue to say, maybe Becky should not have lost that match. Maybe that match should have still gone on because of where her foot was while she was in the bank statement. Real quick updates here in Game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. Fourth quarter just starting with Golden State Warriors leading now over the Houston Rockets, 79-75, 11:07 left to go in the ball game. Go ahead and throw that out there for you. 208-643-0102, talking about Payback, talking about NXT. Man, and speaking of NXT, I would be remiss if I didn't at least touch upon this before we went to the top of the hour break. But Monday night, John Cena in the ring doing his usual spiel and then announcing the United States Championship Open. And who answered the challenge? None other than the NXT Heavyweight Champion, Kevin Owens. And Owens didn't come out to accept the challenge based on, I want to fight for the U.S. Championship. Owens came out to make a statement. And for those that may have thought that segment went on a little long, I thought that it was beautifully done. I thought it was tremendous. And the biggest fear that I had when Owens came out was, oh no, okay. You already had Sami Zayn come out in his hometown of Montreal and do the honors to Cena, which I had no problem with because it is a time-honored tradition in this business that, if you're coming out to make a debut in your home city, more often than not, you're going to lose, but you're going to get the opportunity to get the respect. When Kevin Owens came out on Monday, I felt a collective groan in the crowd that I actually shared that, oh my God, they're going to feed him to Cena and basically kill Kevin Owens too. This wouldn't happen. But thankfully there was no match. It was back and forth that Owens used not only to set up his match against Sami Zayn at NXT TakeOver, which he did a tremendous job in doing to set that up, but also to let everybody know truly how dangerous Kevin Owens as a character is. And I think, it established him again as, and I've used the phrase before, and I'll go ahead and say it again, he is the Brock Lesnar of NXT. He is the tough badass that is hard to hurt, although Sami Zayn did a great job last night before taking the pop-up powerbomb into the ring apron. But he's been booked and has performed as a tough prize fighter. And I think it was a very telling statement that, we're going to fight, but we're going to fight on my terms. And then kicking Cena in the gut, firing him into the ropes, hitting the pop-up powerbomb was tremendous. And I know there are a lot of wrestling purists out there, especially those that are in the business, that would look at with him stomping on the U.S. Championship as a sign of disrespect. I look at it as a great statement and probably the brainchild of Triple H to take Kevin Owens, have him stomp on that belt, hold up the NXT title, and essentially say this NXT championship is more important than the United States Championship. And after NXT TakeOver last night, I am going to fully agree with that statement. In the pecking order of championships in the WWE, it's the WWE World Heavyweight Championship, the NXT Championship, and the United States Championship and Intercontinental Championships right now are pretty much inconsequential. Cena's done a good job in building up and making the U.S. Championship important again, but I think he is the wrong person to be making that championship important. And until he loses, it's just going to continue to degrade the importance of, one of WWE's main secondary titles. Back in the day, it was the World Championship, the Intercontinental Championship, and whoever would win the Intercontinental Championship would eventually get stepped up and groomed to the next level. And right now, they don't have anybody who's ready to groom and put these people to the next level, with Cena being the U.S. champ. With Cena being the U.S. champ, it's let's feed everybody that we can to Cena, have him beat everybody, and then basically we're just going to keep building around Cena, even though he's not in the World Heavyweight Championship scene anymore. It's all about Cena, 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 Cena. And quite frankly, I agree with a lot of the fans that simply say, you know what, WWE, at this point, I think we've seen enough. And I honestly really fear for Kevin Owens going into this match at the Elimination Chamber. I don't know if they're going to give him the shot for the United States champion. I wonder if it's just going to be a champion versus champions match. But there's a lot of damage that can be done to Kevin Owens as the character going into Elimination Chamber, and that's something that we're going to need to take a very long, hard look at coming up next week. Top of the hour break here on the show, here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network, 208-643-0102. If you want to join, we're going to take a break. We'll be back on the show right here on Beyond Ringside Radio Network.
The To Be Determined Show live Wednesday nights, 9 Central Standard Time. Join myself, the Oracle of Ominous, the Wicked Nemesis, the Grand Design, Clyde Braddock, and the Magic City Monroe, Fast Eddie Lane, as we take you to the edge of uncensored. Yes, we go uncensored, so make sure you have your earmuffs. Ask your parents, for those of you that are a little young, maybe under 18, but make sure if you have any heart conditions or any mental defects, please listen, because they may take effect right here live every Wednesday night, 9 Central Standard Time. Beyond Ringside Radio Network, beyondringside.com.
Howdy, friends. This is the Magic City Motormouth, Fast Eddie Lane, with your invitation to join yours truly, along with Mark Mabo Bowman and the Oracle of Ominous, the Wicked Nemesis, every Sunday night, 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. Pacific, for Beyond Ringside Live. Wrestling, mixed martial arts, sports talk, and a whole lot more. Keep your eyes open on BeyondRingside.com for all of upcoming show information, and of course, catch us on social media as well. Until then, we'll see you this Sunday, 6:30 Eastern, for Beyond Ringside Live on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network.
Welcome back to the show here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. 7 after the top of the hour. Make it 8 after the top of the hour. Here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network, www.beyondringside.com, as well as the Beyond Ringside app for your Android device. And if you're one of those suckers that still uses an iPhone, I'm so sorry. We don't have an app for you. Well, we do. You can always jump on the TuneIn radio app and search Beyond Ringside for all the fine programming that you will find right here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. Again, this is the show. I am the voice, Ted Guinness. 208-643-0102 is the telephone number. If you want to be a part of the program, don't forget you can also listen to replays of this program on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network when there is live programming not happening. You can also find us on our Podomatic site, greatamericanmedia.podomatic.com. There you can check out back episodes of the show here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. Quick update, and yes, I'm going to be doing this up until probably the bottom of the hour when I sign off here tonight. Only going an hour and a half tonight. Unless the phones start blowing up, which I don't know is actually going to happen or not. Update in the Warriors game right now, 89-85, 4:44 left in the fourth quarter. Golden State with a 4-point lead. Damn, there's a lot of fours in there. Andrew Bogut just took a hard foul underneath, going for an offensive rebound by Dwight Howard. Late in the game, fouls really become important, not only personal but team fouls, because if you're the Rockets right now, down 4 with under 5 to go, the last thing you want to do is put Golden State on the free throw line for the rest of the game, because you know who's going to be going to the line. It's going to be either it's going to be Curry, Klay Thompson, or Andre Iguodala who's going to get their hands on the ball. And if not one of those three, you've got Draymond Green and Harrison Barnes who can line up from the free throw line. Too many dangerous weapons to be getting into foul trouble this late in the fourth quarter. I don't know how many fouls Houston has at this point. I haven't seen the stat on the screen, and of course I've got the game muted so I can actually provide you with entertainment on this Thursday evening. Again, the number 208-643-0102 is the phone number if you want to join, talking about a lot of the things going on with WWE over the past weekend. You had Payback, Kevin Owens making his debut on Monday Night Raw. NXT had a tremendous show last night. In case you missed it, Kevin Owens retained the NXT Championship by referee stoppage after Zayn pretty much had the entire match under control up until a point where outside the ring he went to charge Kevin Owens, and Owens picked him up, caught him with a pop-up powerbomb into the ring apron, and they essentially brought out the referees. The one thing confusing about the way that match ended, though, is that I never heard the referees call for the bell. The refs never called for the bell to end that match. And then, Kevin Owens would back off as the referees were checking him. The medical personnel were checking out Zayn at ringside, would come in and attack him a little bit. And, Zayn wasn't moving around a lot, which, built up some questions, hey, did Sami Zayn suffer a stinger? Did he temporarily lose feeling in his extremities? What's going on with Zayn? When Owens picked him up and threw him back in the ring, obviously there was no communication that, that Zayn was seriously injured. So, you weren't really worried about that. But the subsequent beatdown inside the ring and leading up to Samoa Joe making his NXT debut, unbelievable, unexpected, and probably the best kept secret in professional wrestling in a long, long time that Owens was about to make his debut. I don't remember someone about to make their WWE debut that, at least PW Insider, Lords of Pain, or some of the more respectable wrestling websites out there even picked up on. I think the last person that they were able to sneak through was Jericho, way back in 2000, whatever it was, when he interrupted The Rock's promo and made his debut. It was, 99, wasn't it? Right before the Y2K thing. Yeah, so Y2K, Y2G. Yeah, so it was right around. So, wow, 14 years since the WWE was able to pop a surprise, and it wasn't even on the main roster. It was down at NXT, and probably the hottest, if not the hottest, free agent going right now with Samoa Joe. Now, in terms of his deal, it appears that he's still going to be able to fulfill his independent contracts and still retain the same name while giving WWE rights to his name, as evidenced by the Samoa Joe t-shirts that are already out and have sold out on WWE Shop. Last I heard, the mediums, the larges, the extra larges, and the 2XLs completely gone. So that's how popular Samoa Joe is. And I got to say, Joe looked better than I've seen him in his last couple of years at TNA. He looks like he really slimmed down, got himself into shape, and, looks like Samoa Joe looked like back in his Ring of Honor days when he was having those great battles with CM Punk. And it just opens up, again, you have a lot of indie history between Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Samoa Joe, a lot of these guys that have fought each other on the independent scene, Finn Balor, Hideo Itami, another one, that have all mixed it up at some point. And I cannot tell you, I cannot contain how excited I am to see that these great feuds are going to be given plenty of time in NXT, because that's one thing that they really do well at NXT is they give their talents time to get through their match and do what needs to be done without rushing it, without forcing it, without cheapening what these talents can bring to these events. Enough about NXT, though. 208-643-0102 is the phone number. Quarter past the 9 o'clock hour here in the Mountain Time Zone, just past 11:15 in the Eastern Time Zone, 8:15 out in the West Coast. And speaking of the West Coast, quick update. Stephen Curry just nailed another three-pointer. Oh, no, they're going to call it a long two. And the Warriors have a 94-86 lead, 2:45 left to go in the ball game. And the Rockets just returned with another three. So a 5-point ball game at the Oracle Arena in Oakland, California, game 2 of the Western Conference Finals. I'm curious. I'm really curious to see what's going to happen in the East too, because with the Cavaliers and the Atlanta Hawks, both teams, all four teams in the conference finals, the number 1 and the number 2 seeds. Unbelievable. I don't remember the last time that you had the number 1 and the number 2 seeds in both conferences going for the conference finals. So, I mean, whoever comes out of the East, I honestly think right here, this series between the Warriors and the Rockets, this is your NBA Finals. And whoever comes out of the East, it's going to be purely consequential. I don't think LeBron James is going to be able to carry that team to an NBA Finals. He may be able to carry him to an appearance, but I don't think he's going to have the tools. LeBron is not surrounded by guys he was surrounded by like he was in Miami. And, take nothing away from Kyrie Irving, take nothing away from Kevin Love, who's, not in this series because of an injury. LeBron is a great player and, multi-time MVP, has won a couple NBA championships, but still, damn, I don't think he has enough tools around him. And the Atlanta Hawks, they're hit or miss. Right now they're down 0-1, and they're the number 1 seed in the conference. They need to win Game 2 and go in and win Game 3 if they're going to have any chance of going to the NBA Finals. Just my opinion, just throwing out some NBA talk. Elimination Chamber comes up in a couple of weeks. And this is a very rushed pay-per-view. The one thing that I like about it, though, is that for the first time, the Elimination Chamber is not going to be used to decide the World Heavyweight Championship. Instead, the Elimination Chamber is going to host 2 matches that have already been announced for the Elimination Chamber. First match is the match for the Intercontinental Championship, the vacated championship, after Daniel Bryan had to relinquish it due to injuries again. And that is going to be populated by, I don't even have the list. I was going to try to do it off of memory. It's Dolph Ziggler, Rusev, Bad News Barrett is in that match, along with 3 others. And then, of course, you have, for the first time ever, tag team championships to be defended in an Elimination Chamber, which begs the question, are both members of the teams that are waiting to get in going to be encased in the pods? And if so, you got to make sure that your teammate freshly showers before the match and puts on some fresh deodorant, because you do not want to be stuck in one of those pods for 20 minutes with a guy that just reeks. But no, in all joking aside on that, it's going to be interesting. I think the one real interesting thing is, what are they going to do with New Day? Because you're going to have 2 of the 3 members of New Day in there. Who's going to be in there to defend those titles? And, obviously they're not going to allow the non-competitor to be in the match. And there's really no place for him to stand at ringside. I'm curious. I'm really curious to see what they do. If they pull the trigger and go ahead and put the titles on the Lucha Dragons or the Primetime Players. But it does strike the point that they're making the tag team titles important again. There was a long period of time when you had Goldust and Cody Rhodes, the Rhodes brothers, the Usos, a couple of years ago, that were really putting up some great matches and really rebuilding the tag team division. And then it kind of took a step back, and now they're really building it up again. The 6 teams involved in this match: Los Matadores, yawn, the Ascension, which I'm still holding my breath on, and only because I'm friends with Connor. So, I don't want to sit and bash. It's just not going to happen. I'm not going to bash the Ascension yet. And then, of course, you have the tag team champions, the New Day. The Primetime Players are going to be in there as well. The Lucha Dragons, and for some reason the Tyson Kidd and Cesaro. So you're going to have 6 teams in the Elimination Chamber. And, that right there should be a great physical, hard-fought, brutal match. It's always a brutal match when you have 6 guys in that cage, but when you have 12 guys in the Elimination Chamber, that's going to be something that is going to be absolutely special. Absolutely special. And regardless of how you feel about certain teams in there, you have to respect the willingness to go in there and essentially fight against 10 other guys, you and your partner fighting against 10 other guys in one of the most inhospitable environments in WWE. Rounding out that card so far is the World Heavyweight Championship match between Dean Ambrose and the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, Seth Rollins. We talked about that early on in the first hour. Also signed for that match, or for that card, is going to be Nikki Bella defending against Paige against Naomi in a triple threat match. And you can only hope that they're given enough time like they do down in NXT to really give these women a chance to shine, especially if it's going to be a light-loaded card. If there's not going to be a lot of matches, if it's just going to be the 4 and then maybe one more on the main pay-per-view and then a pre-show match, they're going to have to give a lot of these competitors time. I can see the tag team title match going at least 20 minutes. Well, it's going to last 20 minutes at minimum, because every 5 minutes a new team is going to be released. 4 teams in the pod, 5 times 4 is 20. There's your math for the night, Eddie. I could see that one going 30, 35 minutes. I could see the Intercontinental Championship match going 40, 45 minutes. That takes up about an hour and a half. And if this does not have pay-per-view clearance, and they're just going under the auspices of WWE Network, and they want to take it to 3 hours, you're going to have to give Ambrose and Rollins at least 20 minutes, possibly 30. And then that gives the Divas match 10 to 15 minutes. And the one black hole going into this match, and maybe it's not the right vernacular to use, especially if you're one of those people that think that, oh, he's being racist because he used the word black. I think the one question mark, let's use that, going into this match is Naomi. A while ago, I was really high on her, thinking that, she actually added herself to be a viable fourth when they needed it. And ever since she's done the heel turn, her performance has really taken a huge step back. And there's not a lot about her as an athlete and as a character right now that I actually like. Her entrance music sucks. Let's just go ahead and throw that out there right now. And now she's being saddled up with Tamina, which basically is giving her the stigma of, I'm a heel that can't do things by myself, so I need backup, which I don't like. Actually, right about now, the only thing about Naomi that I like is the cool LEDs that she has in her boots. That's it. She's really, really, really taken a major step back in what she's doing. So I don't think that she is ready for a Divas title run. I don't think she'll get it. I do know that they need to get the title off of Brie off of Nikki Bella soon, because she's looking like she's going to be retiring here at some point, along with her sister. So they're going to need to get that title off of Nikki here rather soon. So I can see Paige getting her third run with the Divas title, and essentially putting her in a long program with Naomi just to get get her traction back, because she's really lost it over the past couple of months here that she's done her heel turn. We're coming up to 25 minutes after the bottom of the hour, and unfortunately, I am going to be cutting things short a little bit tonight, getting off a half an hour early. Game 2 of the NBA Western Conference Finals. I'm sorry, I'm too distracted. With a couple of minutes left in the game, the Warriors are up 8. And to be quite honest, and to be quite fair to you, the listening audience, I'm going to be more interested in paying attention to that than listening to myself talk to myself for the next 30 minutes. So I'm going to go ahead and call it a program here tonight. I do want to thank everybody that did tune in and listen. A reminder, you can hear the replay of this program on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network, as well as the Beyond Ringside app when live programming is not in progress. Also, you can download replays on our Podomatic site, greatamericanmedia.podomatic.com. That's greatamericanmedia.podomatic.com. As well as you can follow on Twitter by tweeting me at Ted Guinness. And of course, tune in to all the great programming that is on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. Coming up Sunday is Beyond Ringside, the original show. Wrestle Rage Radio, as well as the Midnight Black Mass. Then coming up next Wednesday is the To Be Determined show with Wicked Nemesis, Angie Travis, Clyde Braddock, Fast Eddie Lane, and the shenanigans that go on there. And then, of course, I will be back with the show next Thursday, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central, right here on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network. For Beyond Ringside, for our producer, Ted Guinness, for our call screener, Ted Guinness, I am the voice, Ted Guinness. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week right here on the show on the Beyond Ringside Radio Network.